to me. Welcome, strangers. And we're back in the room. Happy New Year, everybody. This is the first one of 2022. It's been a nice long break, but we are back in the room. Joining me today, it is my honor and yours. Absolute privilege. We have an actor, television presenter, theatre director, my friend, now yours as well, Mr. Hugo Myatt. Welcome to the show. How the devil are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And hello, everybody. Lovely. Yeah,
fantastic stuff. Yeah, I'm doing really well, mate. Thank you, really, really well. Like I said at the top, great to have you with us. Thank you for coming on. Well, what's going on in the world? How's COVID treated you for starters?
Well, I've avoided it so far, but that means I've been more or less in isolation for a couple of years, which is getting really boring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see people occasionally, but to be honest, not a lot. When you're my age, you're a bit worried about getting it, and people say, "Oh, it's so mild," but then they're 20, and I'm not.
Yeah. That's it. I'm past the border now as well, So I'm avoiding it myself as best I can. But yeah, so what's going on lately? Obviously, you've been involved in many things, many movies, many television appearances, theatre.
I mean, what I was doing before COVID was mostly these, what do they call them, Comic-Cons, or these.
All right, yeah.
Well, of course, they all stopped.
Yeah,
because you can't surround yourself with hundreds of people and survive. So that all stopped. I've started again. I think I'm beginning to start again doing those. So the next one's in Nottingham in May, I think, that I know about. There may be others in between, but so far that's it. As for work, well, I'm still awaiting that phone call,
Hollywood, if you're watching, Hollywood, we'll put the number in the links below, all right? Yeah.
I just keep missing them. This bloke, Hopkins or somebody, can't be who he is. He's another Welsh bloke anyway.
Yes, I know, just up the road. He went to Cowbridge Grammar School back in the day. Sir Anthony, good stuff. Well, let's talk about your career then, if we may. So, a story career, but let's go back to the very start. So, firstly, how, where, when, and why did your acting career or your television career begin?
Yeah, right. Well, I was working for an institution called the National Coal Board, which I was very bad at. I used to walk around with a clipboard trying to look as I was doing something.
Been there.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know what age I was, 20, I suppose, something like that, 19 or 20. And I was very bad at it. I was terrible. I mean, I hated it. I hated everything about it. And I heard a program on the radio about children's theatre. I thought, what's this? And I thought, oh, I could do that, I thought. I don't know why I thought it, because I had absolutely no experience of it and done amateur stuff or anything. And I just thought, I don't know, I'll find out. So I got a copy of The Stage, the theatre's magazine,
Yeah.
And there was an advert for people for children's theatre. So I wrote off, immediately got an interview. Went to see this guy. I won't say the name of this company, but it was known as Light Work Done with Pony and Trap, amongst other people.
Oh, okay.
It was a pretty risky sort of company. But anyway, and I thought, I talked to this bloke and I thought, well, I'm doing really well here. I'm really impressing him. I thought I'd conned him. He'd conned me. Anyway, what it ended up with, got this job doing these daft shows, a bit of a sort of mock Shakespeare thing, and a bit of Toad of Toad Hall and things like that, in a converted ambulance, driving with blacked out windows.
Yeah.
Driving around the countryside with a few costumes, a rostrum, which we had to put up ourselves, collapsible rostrum, a few lights. And we used to go to schools, charging in those days, £2 a head, I think it was, 2 shillings, and do these shows. And then we'd look at the schedule and see where are we next. Well, I'll give you one example of what happened. We did one show in Swansea, lovely Swansea.
Yes, again, just up the road.
That's right. That was in the morning. We looked at the schedule at lunchtime and it said Brighton this afternoon.
Oh, right. So, yeah, of course, that's just up the road from Swansea, right?
That's
We're not going to say how far up the road, but it's up the road, all right?
That's the sort of thing that happened, We got a show in less than an hour in Brighton. We were in Swansea.
Yeah, I take it that one never happened.
Well, we ended up sleeping under the pier, as far as I remember, in Brighton when we finally got there. Yeah, terrific. And it was full of things like that. I mean, one of the characters he got, we didn't realise at the time, was called Frank. We gradually got to know him as Axeman Frank, because he'd just been released from a mental hospital, and he was liable to sudden bursts of anger, particularly when he was driving the van.
Yeah.
So he'd be driving along, and then you'd say something, and he'd just let go of the wheel, turn around, and whop you.
Jeez, nice guy.
Was the van was
yeah, zigzagging all over the road.
That's right. It was quite an exciting start to a theatrical career, I have to say. Yeah. So it sort of went on from there. I got into repertory theatre and various other things. Just moved on. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff.
So that was my start.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it. I still don't. I'm jolly glad I did, because what is it? Robert Mitchum, who said, somebody said, "Why are you an actor?" He said, "It's better than work," which I thought was a great answer.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great analogy, right?
Yeah. That's how I started.
Fantastic stuff. Great. So from your little ambulance then, obviously you started climbing the ladder there. What were the next steps from there then? And when did you first get your first television or film break from there then as well?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, somewhere along I did a lot of rep, huge amount of rep, which I loved. I probably stayed too long doing it, but I enjoyed it too much. And then I did the odd small tiny parts in things which most have long since forgotten, even by me. And really, I was 20 years in the profession before I got Knightmare.
All right, okay.
So that came a bit out of the blue, which was also a strange story. But I'd done the odd thing, and I'd done. I did Tales of the Unexpected, and I did a wonderful thing for Southern Television, which was called Park Ranger. I shall never forget this, in which I was supposed to be a priest taking a choir outing, driving a lorry, taking all these kids for a camping holiday. And somewhere, I can't remember, it was some New Forest or somewhere, I don't know where we did it now. But anyway, two things happened there that I never forget. And firstly, I'd never driven a lorry before in my life. So they put me in this lorry and said,
in at the deep end.
You drive off, and we'll say to you we'll give you a cue when to slow down and stop and all this. Well, I know nothing about lorries, So I've got this thing, and foot on the clutch, foot on the accelerator, let me foot off the clutch. Things zoomed forwards, and all the choir fell out the back. So that was one thing. Wasn't terribly good. And then on the director,
were they singing at the time?
No, they were all sort of jolly there in the back.
That's all right then.
And they just totally the whole lot.
Don't worry about that.
But when I eventually got to various scenes in this thing, the director couldn't decide what my name was. He said, what we should call you? Bullivant? No, Bulstrode, Bullen. And he kept going on like this. And then he did eventually decide on one. And I was doing all this stuff, and I finally got to say, and then the park ranger comes up saying we shouldn't be lighting fires but whatever it was. And he said, and I went to him and I said, "Hello, I'm the Reverend Jesus Christ," because I couldn't remember the name. So it came out as I'm the Reverend Jesus Christ.
Controversial.
It wasn't really what I meant to say.
Fantastic. Great stuff. But so obviously it'd be rude not to talk about Knightmare. And I'd love to dive into Knightmare if you're up for that.
That's fine.
First of all, I did sort of promise him. I told a mate of mine who we used to watch Knightmare together, late 80s, early 90s, back in the earlier days of the show, through to, I think it was 94 when it wrapped up. Was that right? Ish?
89 to, it's about that. 87 to 90. I was 8 years. I can't remember.
Yeah. I think it was thereabouts. And that's pretty much when I stopped watching children's TV then, because I was coming to my own as well. But Knightmare was when I'd still stick with, because it wasn't like childish, like, kids TV. It was a bit freaky as well, which was great. But obviously, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you're best known to the masses as the Dungeon Master Treguard from Knightmare, yeah?
I'm sure that's right.
Yeah. And I've got you 112 episodes over 8 series, 87 to 94 in my notes. So it's got to be right.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, so before we dip into that, I mentioned to my friend you were coming on, and he was like, please get him to say, welcome, stranger, to me. And his name is Mikey. Would you do the honors?
Yes, it goes. Welcome, Watchers of Illusion, to the Castle of Confusion. Enter, stranger. 'Tis Mikey. Yes. Come in.
Fantastic. He's gonna love it. He's not gonna sleep tonight, but he's gonna love it. Fantastic. Cheers to that, Hugo. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Knightmare then. So let's go back in with the how, where, when, and why. How did this job come about for you? And did you foresee it lasting the length of time that it did?
Not at the beginning, no, not at all. When it came again out of left field, most of my jobs have come out of left field one way or another. Because I didn't go to drama school or any of those things, as I've always said. I just, started off. Anyway, at that time, I'm living in Norfolk, and I had an old boat on the Norfolk Broads. And it was on the hard because I was working on it. So I was under it like I was under a car,
Yeah.
In Blankson. Well, a chap I'd known a little bit socially called Tim Child, he had a rather posher boat in the same yard. And so I didn't really know him well, but I knew him socially a bit because I'd done some what we call godslots at Anglia and other stuff, and Tales of the Unexpected things. And he more or less sort of kicked my foot as I was lying under there, like you would some poor mechanic under a car, and said, Hugo. I said, oh, hello, Tim. He said, you're an actor, aren't you? I said, yes. He said, look, he said, I tell you you're interested, but I'm making a little pilot. It won't be shown. It's just a quarter of an hour thing. We're just doing to see if this idea we've got will work. Be cash in hand. Would you like to have a go at it? I said, well, it sounds very interesting. Yeah. He said, about 150 quid or something like that,
Oh, brilliant.
I said, yeah. Few more planks for that. So yes, I said. He said, "Well, come meet me at a pub, this pub up in Norfolk somewhere." And we met, and he explained it to me. I was going, "Yes, right. I see. Right. Yes. Okay. Right." I hadn't a clue what he was talking about. I just didn't understand any of it.
Just nodded and smiled in all the right places. Yeah.
Like if you were asked whether you can ride horses, you would say yes.
Yeah. That's it.
Anyway, so eventually I got to do this pilot, and I began to understand what it was all about doing it. And I did this quarter of an hour pilot, and that was that. I got my little few bob, and I thought that would be the end of it, because often with these things they are. And then I don't know how many months later, he phoned me again and said, got in touch with me and said, Hugo, we're doing a longer pilot, a sort of full-length pilot. It won't be shown.
Again.
A bit more money in your hand. All right. So I said, yeah, sure. So this time I did it, and I got much more of an idea of what it was about this time, and sort of, began to. So anyway, we did this pilot. And again, I ended up with a few quid in my hand and probably went back to under the boat, or whether I got another job, I can't remember. But with pilots, now I'd known this before, if people making pilots for television, the actors who do the pilots very rarely get the job.
Yeah.
Because they want a name, or they want somebody established, or whatever. And I had no real career in television worthwhile.
And they can't really grab those people to do the pilots. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I more or less forgot about it, wrote it off. And then one day Tim phones me up. He says, Hugo. I said, yes. Oh, hello, Jim. Yeah. He says, we've got a series.
Wow.
I said, oh, well, Johnny, well done. Good for you. I hope it goes well. He said, no. We've got a series, you and I.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's how it started. Wonderful.
Excellent stuff. So from there, it's how long a process was it from that point then before you started shooting for the first series then?
A couple of months or something like that. And then we
Yeah.
were into it, yes, straight into it, yeah.
Fantastic. It's a great series, though. It was just like a virtual world with, well, so I tell you what, can you give us your overview for people who are watching and listening who might not have seen Knightmare about what it was?
You can't really explain it. I mean, at the time, I often had to do radio interviews with people, and they'd say, well, what is this show? Well, you try describing it. It is very difficult.
Yeah, I just tried and then handed straight back over to you, Hugo.
You can say, well, we put a kid in a dungeon, we stick a bucket over his head, and he's got 4 friends who shout at him, how do you do this? And if you say, well, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, only it isn't.
Yeah.
You say it's a quiz show, it isn't. It's a game show, it isn't. It's I suppose the only thing you could really call it is a quest show. But even that doesn't cover it. It's very difficult to explain. But the great thing about it is, it's although we didn't rehearse it. Let me explain this. Although it was recorded, we did it as if it were live. So there were no retakes and no rehearsals. And we had camera rehearsals, obviously, because we wanted to know what anything was going to happen. But we didn't have any rehearsals with the kids. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been
as organic as it was.
Yeah. And the result is that I was just as terrified as they were, because I was there. I had a script of a sort, but once they started playing the game, the script is no use to you whatsoever. I mean, you've got no idea of what they're going to do. I mean, we always thought we worked out every scenario those children could possibly do, and they do something completely different.
Then came a curveball.
That's right. I mean, all the time. So you never knew what they were going to do. And I had an earpiece in from the director's box, and sometimes I'd get this really helpful comment like, Hugo, do something.
Yeah, what? Like what?
Yeah. And of course, you can't answer back because I was on 3 cameras, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember now, but anyway. So it was a very exciting show to do.
Yeah, that was great. So I'd like to talk a bit about the set as well, if we could. So obviously we're seeing one thing at home. What we see at home is the 4 kids guiding their friend through this virtual world, and the fire burning, yourself in all your get-up as well. A few guests in there as well. Like there were elves, goblins, things like goblins. Oh my God, they freaked the hell out of me. As soon as those horns would go off, it was another level of freaking out, But yeah, so can you just talk to us a bit about the actual setup and how the set was designed?
Okay, now
how far away was I don't know, we'll call him the navigator or the knight or whatever you want to call him, the quester from the rest of the team?
They were usually right there. It's quite I mean, in those days it was blue screen. Nowadays it's green screen.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, so the set I was in was what we called the live set, which was actually a real set. So there I was. It was filmed in the summer. There I was next to that damn great fire with makeup. You'd have to come tearing on and wipe the sweat off me because I was, Anyway. So all that with the advisors and the dungeoneer coming in was all real set.
Yeah. Okay.
Next door to that was the blue. What do we call it now? I can't think what we used to call it. But then the void, the blue void. Actually, we had a smaller one next to that. So the dungeoneer would get into the blue void, and whatever happened, it's quite difficult to explain this because all those wonderful imaginative sets, particularly in the first few series, were designed by a brilliant character called David Rowe. But they had to be within a context of a perspective grid. Otherwise, people would seem to be walking through walls or not standing on the floor. Or all the rest of it. I mean, one of the first achievements of this, which hadn't been done before, was we actually had shadows. They'd tried the chroma key before, but everybody seemed to be floating because they didn't have any shadows.
Okay.
Don't ask me how it was done, but that they had shadows. So that was just next door to me. I was actually seeing exactly what you public was seeing. What the
you were, yeah. Okay.
Didn't see any more than that. What's I going to say about that? I don't know. That's what made it, of course, so exciting, because that's what I was seeing. And some of the effects they did, I still don't know how they did them.
No, it's back then as well.
Yeah, and it was all on, although it was computer generated, it was all on video. It wasn't. It wasn't like even as good as this.
That's it.
It was quite incredible. I mean, we had. I think we had one child trying to climb up a stair that wasn't there.
Out that end.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposedly there, but of course it wasn't. So trying to guide him away from it. So it was quite difficult. Also, the fact that when I started in the first few series, I had to be the menace as well as I had to provide the menace as well as the the avuncular bit.
Yeah, and
so. I can remember, I don't know where this is in it. They didn't cut much, but I remember once a team saying to me, I was sitting there going, and one went, help. And I went, no.
You evil man, you evil man.
They've got to do a bit for themselves.
Of course, yeah, they've got to learn, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Knightmare was, a life lesson for kids in my eyes.
Yeah, it was quite terrifying for them, some of them. I mean, I can remember the very small ones. I can remember some of them came through and they were shaking. And I thought, I can't do this. I tried not to be so nasty, or seem so nasty.
Yeah.
But in terms of how much help they got, if they were very small, very young, then I'd help them quite a lot.
Yeah, you give them a bit more then, yeah. They need it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd try and help them at the beginning so they got the hang of it. And then, they're much more on their own.
Yeah, a little bit of hand-holding to start them off.
Yeah. Because it's terribly difficult to frighten. I have to say that the poor children never actually saw us off the set.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, I see. So they were in that world, literally in that world with you.
Really, the first time they saw me was when they came through that door, and I said, "Enter, stranger."
Oh God!
And they never saw us between scenarios or anything like that. They used to shout, "Dressing room's closed. Kids coming through," and everybody would disappear.
Just like that, click in character, and away you go.
So, they didn't see us. They didn't see us until we were next on set. So they had no idea what was coming up.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. So out of all those, like I said, there's 112 episodes. Sometimes you had a couple of crews on each episode that we saw on our TVs, didn't we? As in a couple of crews of contestants, we call them then, or questers. Out of all those, on a percentage, roughly, what would you say? How many actually made it to the end? Because I seem to remember a large quantity of them. It was a tough game.
Well, in all, there were only 8 winners.
Really?
Years. Yeah, that doesn't mean one a season, one a year. Sometimes there were 2, but in all, there were only 8, I think, who actually won.
Wow, I knew it was low. I didn't realize it was that low. So that's amazing. So those 8 people are out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And if any of them 8 people are out there and they're watching this and you'd like to have a chat about your experience on the other side of the fence here to Hugo, come and see me. Give me a shout. Drop me a comment. Brilliant. Excellent. So it was, I keep on saying it was a fantastic show. It was just glued to the chair whenever it would come on. The goblins, tell me about the goblins. What can you tell me about them? They freaked the hell out of me.
Well, yeah, but it's a bit like the giant spider and things. It never actually did anything. I mean, it's like the bomb room. I think I was only allowed to blow up one team or one dungeoneer because people thought it was a bit nasty. Yeah. And it used to make me, because they always said the same thing. The kid would say, the dungeoneer would say, "Where am I?" And they'd say, "You're in a room." Great, terrific. But the bomb room, they'd have this, great bomb with a fuse lit. He'd say, "What do I do?" And they'd describe. They said, "Well, there's a bomb in the corner, and it's got a fuse. The fuses are light." "Oh, right. What do I do?" "What does he do?" And they'd have a discussion.
Yeah.
Get out, And eventually, I think we actually had to slow the fuse down
because you didn't want to blow them up, like.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And the spider you mentioned, I didn't realize the spider never took anyone, did it? It was just there just to inject panic.
Yeah, that's right. and also to sort of add an element to it, we put in this life force thing, which was equally horrifying. You know, the skull or face that sort of turned into bits and bits fell off. That was just to keep them moving, to stop them spending too much time talking. So, you know, I'd say, team, your life force is in danger. So they have to run and do a bit more. But there was interesting things like in the early shows, sometimes when the trees flaked out, you know, they fell down a great thing, you know, like the stepping stones, or what do you call them, paving stones and things. And we had this animation of a small child going, but there was nothing over it. I thought, we've got to say something, otherwise it will just seem awful. So I came up with this thing. I went, ooh, nasty, to cover the fall.
Yeah.
And then I think they decided that dropping children from a great height was perhaps not a good idea. So,
but not politically correct.
Yes,
even back then.
But the ooh nasty thing just stayed. Every time someone chuffed it, out came an ooh nasty, which people. It wasn't meant to be a catchphrase, but it ended up as a catchphrase.
It is, yeah. One of those inadvertent ones that just sort of stuck. Yeah, they're always the best, though. They're organically grown, aren't they? And they just stick there. So to sum up your Knightmare experience, then, we can either go for a word or a sentence. Shoot.
Oh God. It was probably one of the most exciting things I've ever done in the business.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen.
And
sometimes even the questions, things they had to do, I'd get to a point in the show and something would come up, and a war monster or something, and ask this question, you would answer this. And I suddenly thought, I don't know the answer. Oh dear. What if they ask me? What if they ask me for a clue? What am I going to say? So it was quite terrifying for me at times as well.
Yeah, you want to think on your feet a lot by the sound of things as well, yeah.
I don't know. There were some great teams. There were some very funny ones as well.
Yeah.
One of my favourite stories was we had a group of girls who were quite sort of far back, you know, quite posh. And the one they put in the helmet turned out to be a bit of a strider. And they said, walk forward. And she covered the whole floor in about 5 steps. You know?
Oh, no.
And then went whack into the back wall.
Not cool.
At which point, she let out an expletive I didn't think she would have known, let alone say it.
What did it begin with?
I can remember that being cut. It was one of the few things that was cut. And we had another team where a bunch of lads, and sometimes they had to stay overnight because their game hadn't finished. And they had to come in, finish it up this morning. I mean, there's a bunch of lads, and I can't remember which one it was, one of the advisors, not the dungeoneer. And they obviously either had a bit of horseplay or fell out in the hotel that night. Because the next day he comes in with a wonderful black eye like this.
Oh, fantastic. Just adds to the effect, doesn't it?
Well, no, I mean, because the show their game is then shown as one.
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
So suddenly he's got a black eye. The makeup spent about an hour and a half or something trying to make this eye look like
Did they get away with it?
Yeah, we got away with it.
Got away with it in the end. Fantastic. The wonders of makeup, eh? The wonderful thing. So do you think the show would work in this day and age? How do you think it would fare now?
As it was in that format, no. It's really necessity being the mother of invention, by which I mean Tim Child, the brilliant guy who thought the whole thing up, he was never very fond of the helmet. Now, the whole point about the helmet was it was necessary in order to make the thing work, because we couldn't have a kid in a blue void and then do it. So the helmet was a compromise, but in fact it's the helmet that made it. It was the blind man's buff thing that made it.
That's right, yeah.
Because the kid didn't know what to do. He had to be told. And so that's what made it very good. Now, then you've got nowadays virtual reality. Well, virtual reality, as it is for most people, only works for the person wearing the
That's right, yeah.
So who wants to watch someone else having fun?
That's it, exactly. So that Nightmare was like reverse virtual reality then, in a way.
But it worked on, I would say it's the first audience participation television there's ever been, because what was happening was this poor innocent dungeoneer was being shouted at by the three advisors. Oh no, left, you know, or whatever. And back home, everybody was shouting at them.
Yeah.
So you've got two levels of drama, which is making it, you know, fantastic.
Brilliant.
Now, people have often moved to this virtual reality thing, but until everybody can be involved, it's not going to work. I mean, you can conjure up virtual reality, these fantastic scenarios, but if the only person enjoying it is the one with the goggles, what's the point? It's not television, you know.
No, that's true.
So I'd love it to work. I mean, they also considered an adult version, but the real problem with that is adults tend to want to answer back.
Yeah, there lies the problem, right?
Whereas I could be a little awe-inspiring. The kids aren't likely to turn around at me and say, "You, mate."
Yeah.
Adults probably would.
I don't know. If they're from Merthyr, they might do.
Yeah, well. But if you see what I mean, it would be much more difficult to control adults.
Definitely.
So that idea went by the by.
Yeah, I suppose adults, they're less likely as well to suspend their disbelief, aren't they? You know?
Yeah. That was just astonishing thing, just quickly about the kids. You know, when they came into that studio, you know, they'd be sort of looking around at the lights and looking at the cameras and things. Within about 3 or 4 minutes, they'd forgotten all that. Once they got the game, they didn't even think about it.
That's it. They're totally fixated on it and in the zone. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
But them alone, I think, and I mean, so many people wanted to be on it. There were endless waiting lists and things. I don't really know, because I wasn't there, how they got them. As far as I know, they advertised locally and in papers and on local radio and things, and then they auditioned them with a mock game to see whether they were going to be any good.
Yeah.
So, it's quite interesting doing a television thing like that, because there are three sorts of people. You see, there's those who just want to be on television. And I had 1 or 2 teams who used to look at us, you know. And then there are those who are complete nerds, wonderful, but they're just complete nerds, and they're like this, move left, move left, move left. But they don't make television. The production values, they're fairly meaningless. And then there's the third team, who are a bit of both. They want to play the game, they want to be on television, they want mum to see them, and so on and so forth. So they're the best teams in terms of television.
Yeah.
It's quite an odd sort of thing to sort out, you know. Yeah, we had some. Yes, I was trying to think what I was going to say then, but I can't. It's gone. It's gone. I'm getting old.
So it's coming to us all. It's coming to us all. So, yeah, that was Knightmare. Fantastic show, fantastic experience for yourself as well, undoubtedly. Moving forward more to the now. So you've done a lot of movies and that as well.
I've done a few, but mostly ones have disappeared without trace. Most of them a bit odd. One was very, very odd.
Which one would that be?
Well, when I was asked to do it, it was called Man with a Movie Camera. By the time it was finished and actually released, it was called Snuff Movie.
Ah, right. Yeah. I've read about that one. I've not seen it, but I've read up on it. Yeah.
Experience, to say the least. It was made in Romania in Castile Studios, whatever it's called, and it was the director was Bernard Rose. So if you know anything about Bernard Rose, everything he does is weird, but this was the weirdest one. And it was pornographic in the end, I mean, I suppose. I remember the leading lady, Lisa, somebody said to me, which room is she in? And I said, oh, she's the one, you know, she took all the clothes off. And I thought, hang on a minute, she took all the clothes off in every room, practically. So something's come up on my screen. I don't know what it is. Is it important? Don't think so. I'll get rid of it. There we are. Excellent. So, yes, that was a very, very strange one. But it was quite fun to be there in Bucharest for however long I was there. So that was great. But I was a bit a bit shocked by what it was at the end and what it came out as called as. So anyway,
Yeah. So it wasn't what it initially said on the tin, was it? Till you
No.
dived in.
Also, who was it now? There was an American star, I can't think of it, who was, when I took the role, I was a sort of oppo to the main man. And there were 3 changes of cast between my getting on the plane and arriving at the studio.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they'd all obviously seen the script more than I had and turned it down. You know,
Right, yeah, but when in Rome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. What about currently then? So what are you up to now, and what's next for you? Have you got anything lined up at the moment?
No, not really. I mean, you know, I've been an actor for more than 50 years. I've done 200 plays in theatre.
That's awesome.
I directed about 50, I suppose. And I've done, I think, 38 pantomimes.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I used to start, I always played villains, or mostly. And I can remember doing the one that kept coming up. And it started, know me and tremble.
Okay.
I am the wickedest man in the world.
You got me. I was trembling. And I'm 6'6" and 43.
I did a lot of that. I think I'll tell. I mean, one of the nicest television things I got was I played. It was called Ancient Greeks. Ancient Greeks. And I'm sorry, I seem to have got a bit of a cough.
No worries.
It's not the COVID. It's not. And I played I was booked to play a potter.
Yeah.
In ancient Greece and tell the stories of the ancient Greek myths and famously. And there's no one that daft stories coming out of left field. My then agent turned out and said, "Oh, you got an audition for this was a show, a couple of West End show or something." And well, there's this television they want you to do. So I went to see the West End thing, and I thought I'd done well in that. And then I went to see these people about the television thing, and they said, anyway, I thought she phoned me up again and said, "Oh, you got that job?" And I thought, "Oh, great, West End, true." She said, "No, the television job." I said, "What?" She said, "Yes, you know, when you the potter." I said, "The potter?" I'd forgotten all about it.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I said you're very artistic, and you probably know how to throw pots." I hadn't a clue how to do it. Anyway, I found around and I found this woman who taught pottery. And I went to see her. And she said, "Well, now the first year we spend mostly on throwing the clay onto the wheel." I said, I'm going to Crete in 3 weeks. I've got to be able to make a pot." Oh, no. So anyway, I remember driving home and finding a book that said, you know, it's actually a sort of do every arts and crafts book. It said, you know, how to do 20 things with a piece of clay or whatever. Yeah. And so I fiddled about, and I got there, and I thought, how am I going to get away with this? You know, and they'd actually taken over a Greek potter's pottery, which was right in the hills. It was very, very primitive. I mean, there was a wheel, there was a kiln, there was clay. He made pots. The boy turned the wheel. There was no electric, nothing up there. And this is what I was supposed to do, and be turning a pot and telling the story of Greek myth. So, anyway, I realized watching him that there's no way you could ever look away from the pot without it collapsing. So I said to him, "Well, of course we can do one or the other, but I can't do both, you see." And the director said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if I look up from the pot's going to fall to pieces." "Oh," he said. "Oh, what are we going to do?" I said, "Well, if I start it off and the potter comes in and actually makes the pot as I start to speak, then we can come back to the pot at the end of it, and there's the pot."
Excellent recovery.
I got away with this for the whole series. And,
that's incredible.
And also I did it in, I don't remember Minder. There was a bloke around the bar. Can't think of his name now. In Minder. Anyway, he used to talk less. He say things like, well, you know, the thing to do is you've got to find out here where things are coming from. So I did this whole thing like that. I was saying things like, well, Zeus has got a little lock up on Olympia, you see. You know, I did the whole thing like that. I'd even done the audition. But anyway, I did all this, and it was quite a great success. In fact, such a success. They kept showing it and showing it and showing it. It went into the, I don't know, it was Open University or something. You know, they kept showing it endlessly. I made quite a lot of money out of that. In fact, bought a Morgan, not a Welshman.
Fantastic job.
But at the end of this, the thing ended, and we all went back to England. And about 2 months after, they decided to have a celebration dinner somewhere. And I'd totally forgotten I'd done this silly voice all the way through it. So I got in there and said, "Yeah," and they went, "What?
What the hell?"
I thought you. I mean, no. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm just actor. Oh, by the way, I said before I did that, I'd never thrown a pot in my life. And they went, "Oh my God," because the amount of money they'd risked on this actor.
That's amazing, man. What a great story. And you got away with it. And that makes it an even better story.
Yeah.
With an even better ending.
Yeah, that was right.
Great stuff. So
now,
let's talk about now what's going on at the moment. You're still taking calls, right?
Well, I'm waiting for them, but no. I mean, I'm 76 now, and health is a bit rugged. So I gave up theatre some years ago because, well, to be honest, I just didn't want to live out of a suitcase anymore. And I thought I'd done my bit there. I then, unfortunately, ended up in hospital for a long, involved back operation. And the trouble is, once you get out of the what do you call it? Get out of the circle, the rhythm. I can't think of the word. The loop. That's the film.
The loop, yeah, the routine, yeah.
You tend to lose connections and things like that. So I got a bit left behind, and I've not really ever got back into it. But there you go. You know, had a good life. I can't know.
Yeah. So you've had a great career. And I know I keep diverting back to Knightmare, but you've entertained a lot of us over the years as well. And for that, I don't have a hat. I have a pair of sunglasses. My glasses are off to you.
I'll tell you this, why I love doing these conventions is I meet people who are, I meet the real fans. And some of them, quite a lot of them said to me, I've been into gaming and my career is now in gaming. Others said, I'm now in IT, and it was simply because of Knightmare. Others are Dungeons and Dragons or what's this other role play things. They have these organizations all over the place. And it's Knightmare that got them into it. And it's quite extraordinary. I met one guy who said, a lot of people have said this actual words to me. He said, "You know, you made my childhood." And I said, "Oh, well, I hope you're all right." "What do you do now?" He said, "Oh, well, I'm a brain surgeon." And I thought,
wow.
Whew.
yeah, he's certainly doing all right. Yeah.
But you think, you just don't realize what effect you've had on people. So it's, I hope it's all been nice, all been good, and nobody is really traumatized. So yeah.
Yeah, I think childhood trauma, rewind, childhood trauma from the television. I think we grow out of. It was controlled trauma, there was a line. So
people do tell me they watched it from behind the sofa.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, no denying that. But I often watched it in company as well. It was like, come on, we'll go round to my place and watch it tonight. And it was great though. And again, thank you for those memories. They're fantastic. And thank you once again for coming on and having a natter with me. It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me. I'll say goodbye then.
If you could say farewell, strangers, on your way out.
Yes. So, farewell, strangers. And remember, it's only a game, isn't it?
Do. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, absolute pleasure. Hugo Myatt on the Cayman Show. Thank you so much, you absolute
you.
legend. God bless you.
Have fun.
You too. Woohoo!
Bye.